Hello everyone, this is Anuja Avasthi. Let's begin the poem after Blenheim by Robert Sade. Open your books, poem number 4 after Blenheim by Robert Sade. Alright, let's begin. What is after Blenheim? After Blenheim is an anti-war poem, right? That centers around one of the major battles of 18th century, which is the Battle of Blenheim. And what is Blenheim? Blenheim is a village in southern Germany, right? And this battle occurred in 1704, and the poem after Blenheim was written in 1796. Alright, and this poem is a ballad, right? Every poem has a unique identity. This poem is a ballad. What is ballad? Ballad is often a narrative set to music. Narration means narration is a kind of storytelling, no? Where somebody speaks, somebody tells about something to someone, right? So this poem, when a poem tells something to someone about something, that is ballad. Now what happens? This poem shows the consequences of war through the conversation between an old farmer, Caspar, and his grandchildren, Wilhelmine and Peterkin. Alright, the poem sharply criticizes the destruction and death caused by war. It shows that it is an anti-war poem. It doesn't appreciate the war. It criticizes the war. What happens in the poem? The grandfather, who is Caspar, the grandfather explains his own suffering and the sufferings of many others like him who were victims of the battle. The grandfather cannot give any good reason for war, and can only repeat that it was a famous victory, as you can see in the picture that I'm sharing with you. He says again and again that it was a famous victory. Alright, let's begin with the poem. What happens in the poem? This is our first line. It was a summer evening. Old Caspar's work was done, and he before his cottage door was sitting in the sun, and by him spotted on the green his little grandchild Wilhelmine. See, every poem has a rhyming scheme also, as I told in the poem television and others also. So this poem has also a rhyme scheme. Which is the rhyme scheme? Evening, we'll mark it A. Done, this is evening, no? This will mark it A. And done is not matching with evening, so done will mark it B. Door, it is also not matching with done and evening, we'll mark it C. Sun, but sun is matching with done, so done was B, we'll mark it as B, right? तो हमारी marking हो गई A, B, C, B. And now green is not matching with anyone, so now it will be D. But green is matching with Wilhelmine, it will be D again. Our rhyming scheme of the poem is A, B, C, B, D, D. You can do it yourself also, right? This poem has the rhyme scheme A, B, C, B, D, D, except the second one, except the second para. The second para doesn't follow this rhyme scheme. Only, the other paras follow. Alright, let's begin. It was a summer evening. Old Caspar's work was done. It was a summer evening. Summer evening, the days were long and tiring in summers, and the sun sets late in the evening, right? So that is why the old Caspar's work was done, and it is the time to return to home for the people who work in the fields or somewhere. तो ये उनके घर लौटने का time था. Old Caspar's work was done. He completed his work, and he before his cottage door was sitting in the sun. He was sitting in the sun. Why he was sitting in the sun? though he returned from the work, but the sun sets late in the evening. No, it is summer season. That's why he is sitting before his cottage door, and the sun is shining, and by him spotted on the green. Green means on the green field. By him spotted on the green. Spotted means playing. Who are playing on the green? Who are playing on the green field? His grandchildren. His grandchild Wilhelmin. The name of his grandchild is Wilhelmin. He was playing in the green field, and the grandfather of the grandchild, कौन है वो? Casper. Casper is sitting on his cottage door, sitting in the sun, and he is watching, or we can say observing, his grandchild playing in the green field. Alright, then what happens in the second para? She saw her brother Peterkin roll something large and round, which he beside the rivulet in playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. What happens as she was playing? Who was playing? Peterkin. Two grandchildren are there, no? Wilhelmin and Peterkin. So Wilhelmin is a boy and Peterkin is a girl, right? She saw her brother Peterkin. She means who? Wilhelmin. Probably I spoke like vice versa. Wilhelmin is a girl and Peterkin is a boy. Then what happens? She saw her brother Peterkin. Wilhelmin saw her brother Peterkin roll something large and round. Means he found something large and round. While he was playing in the green field, no, he found something large and round, which he beside the rivulet. Rivulet is a small stream. Stream means river kind of. So he found that large and round something beside the river. यानी रिवर के किनारे जब वो खेल रहा था तो उसको फील्ड में रिवर के किनारे जब वो खेल रहा था तो उसको कुछ बड़ा सा राउंड शेप में कुछ मिला उसको. In playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. He came to whom? Out of curiosity, he takes that something to his grandfather. अपने grandfather के पास आया to ask, out of curiosity, he brought that something to his grandfather to ask what was it. And old Casper observed it. Old Casper observed it rounded thing. जो rounded thing जो लेकर के आया था ना Peterkin, old Casper ने उसको बहुत अच्छे से observe किया. Then what happens? Old Casper took it from the boy who stood expectant by, and then the old man shook his head, and with a natural sigh, "'Tis some poor fellow's skull," said he, "who fell in the great victory." What he said, old Casper? He said that old Casper took it from the boy. First he took it, यानी जो round and जो large thing he found in the field, कौन? Peterkin. He took it from Peterkin. उसने ले लिया. Old Casper ने उसको Peterkin से ले लिया. Who stood expectant by. And Peterkin was, he was in anticipation. He was curious. He was in curiosity. He was eagerly waiting for the reply. That what was it, right? Then what happens? After a brief look at it, बहुत अच्छे से उसको देखने के बाद, then what happens? And then the old man shook his head, and with a natural sigh means a deep breath, he spoke. "'Tis some poor fellow's skull," said he, "who fell in the great victory." क्या बोला old Casper ने? He said, this is a skull, and this skull refers to a soldier who had died in the war. Old Casper told this to the grandchildren, that this is a skull, this round, a large thing is a skull, and this skull refers to a soldier who had died in the war. And then what happens? "I find them in the garden, and there's many hereabout. And often when I go to plough, the plowshare turns them out. For many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. Then what happens? He says, who? Casper. Casper says that he had found many such, round shaped things. And what is that round shaped? It is a skull of the dead soldier. So what happens? Old Casper said that I find them in the garden, for there is many hereabout. जब मैं प्लॉ करता हूँ फील्ड में, I found a lot. मुझे बहुत सारे skull मिलते हैं. And often when I go to plough, the plowshare turns them out. What is plowshare? Plowshare is the cutting blade of plough. Means whenever he goes to plough, he found it, right? Every now and then. You know what? The battle led to the death of thousands of soldiers whose corpses means dead bodies, whose dead bodies lie deep scattered in the field. It shows the destruction. It shows, it represents the destroy. कैसे जो लोग थे, they were dead and their skulls were, buried under the ground. And then what happens? What is the next line? For many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. Many thousand men. Many thousand men means many thousand skull. They were there under the ground, which every now and then old Casper used to find. He believed that soldiers sacrificed their life for the country and did not die in vain. Because he is saying here that were slain in that great victory. Slain means killed, right? So old Casper के लिए this is not a big thing. For old Casper only the war was big. क्योंकि वो ये हमेशा से सुनते आ रहे हैं that war is glorious, war is representing, war is very romantic thing. Romantic is which gives you immense pleasure, right? So that's what he feels over here. And he says, for many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. Means victory. Old Casper is again and again emphasizing on the word victory. He says that their death served the purpose. They did not die in vain. किसी जनरल रीजन की वजह से इतने सारे लोगों की डेथ नहीं हुई. They died for a reason. They served the purpose. Alright, then what happens next para? Now tell us what was all about young Peterkin, he cries, and little Wilhelmine looks up with wonder-waiting eyes. अब here what happens? Hearing about the battle, जब सुना बच्चों ने battle के बारे में, hearing about the battle, the children were restless to know more. बच्चे तो excited हो गए, they were restless. Now tell us what was all about. This twas, TWAS. क्या है ये twas? Why poet used to write like this only? This is archaic literature. Archaic is which is old-fashioned words, right? Archaic is archaic speeches बोलते हैं इसको, which is old-fashioned words. तो जो ये जो इस तरह की चीज़ें लिखी होती हैं TIS and this TWAS, this is the short form of it was. Yani nowadays we write it was all about, but in the poem it is written twas all about. So this is archaic speech, right? So what happens? Now tell us what was all about, because the children are curious, the children are restless to know more. And for them, for the children, the battle seemed to bring excitement. They are very excited to know more. And what happens? Now tell us what was all about. Young Peterkin it cries, and little Wilhelmine looks up with wonder-waiting eyes. Means the curiosity, it reflected in her eyes. She was waiting for a wonder to unfold. She was waiting for a reason why it happened and what happened after that. Now tell us about the war and what they fought each other for. Yes. So now what happens? Now tell us about the war and what they fought each other for. You know what? The ability of question things is a outstanding quality of kids, which unfortunately fades away with growing age. Right? So here the kids are very curious and they wanted to know more. And then it was the English, Caspar cried, who put the French to rout. Rout means defeated, means French were defeated. And then Caspar tells the answer to the grandchildren. Caspar says that history tells us that British defeated French. It was the English who put the French to rout, yani French were defeated. But what they fought each other for, I could not well make out. But you know what? The interesting point, though he again and again praises, he says that it was a great victory, it was a famous victory. But the irony is, he doesn't know the reason behind the war. In fact, he doesn't try to find. He remembers that everybody told him that it was a famous victory. He says, and what they fought each other for, I could not well make out. But everybody said, quoth he. Quoth means said. He says that everybody said that it was a famous victory. My father lived at Blenheim then. Yon little stream hard by, they burnt his dwelling to the ground, and he was forced to fly. So with his wife and child he fled, nor had he where to rest his head. And then what happens? He recollects from the past. याद कर रहा है वो कि his father fled, they used to live in a small village near a river. My father lived at Blenheim then. They used to live at Blenheim. Yon little stream hard by. Yon means there. There was a small river also. They burnt his dwelling to the ground. Dwelling means houses. They, who? French. They burnt his dwelling to the ground. Not only the old Caspar's, but many houses, many innocent people's houses, they burned it. And he was forced to fly. And just because his house was burnt, he was forced to fly. He was forced to migrate. And then, so with his wife and child, he fled. He is talking about his father, that his father was forced to leave the place with his wife and child. He left the place with his wife and child. And you know what? They had to roam here and there. They had to roam from one place to another, seeking the rest. Means they didn't have the place. They didn't have the shelter even. And then what happens? With fire and sword, the country round was wasted far and wide, and many a childing mother then. Childing mother means pregnant ladies. And many a childing mother then and newborn baby died. But things like that, must start to every famous victory. And then what happens? This word, fire and sword, these words represents destruction. These words are the symbols of cruelty. And then what happens? He wants to show that the French wreaked havoc. Wreaked havoc means they created a great damage. With fire and sword, the country round was wasted far and wide. Wasted means misused. Everywhere there was fire and the sounds of the sword. And many a childing mother then, a newborn baby, died. This is catastrophe, Many a childing mother then a new baby died. This is catastrophe. Catastrophe means, an event causing great damage or suffering. It is a literary term where it may happen in the poem, it may happen in the prose, it may happen in a movie or somewhere. Whenever in a movie it happens, when uh, the hero's family is suffering, the houses are burnt and everything, this is called catastrophe, where a great damage or suffering appears. So what happens? It appears catastrophe, and many childing mother and newborn baby died. It evokes the death of innocence. With the words newborn baby and with the word childing mother, we can say that it was the death of innocence. And then what happens? Alright, they say it was a shocking sight after the field was won. For many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. But things like, must be after a famous victory. Here, the depiction of war, terror is there. When the battle was over, thousands of dead bodies of the soldiers lay rotting in the field. Here, shocking and rotting. These two words create assonance. What is assonance? Assonance is the repetition of the sound of a vowel. So what happens? These two words together, they give resonance to the horrendous image of death. ये दोनों वर्ड्स एक साथ जो हैं वो हॉरिफिक एटमॉस्फेयर को और अच्छे से इलैबोरेट कर रहे हैं. Shocking and rotting. What happens? They say it was a shocking sight, thrilling sight. After the field was won, means after the battle was over, for many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. Many dead bodies of the soldiers lay rotting in the field. But things like that, must be after a famous victory. You know what? This word rotting reduces dead man to carrion. Carrion is rotten flesh of an animal. Right? It shows how war not only takes away life but also dignity and humanity. Dead is okay, right? But rotting in the sun means the dead bodies are rotting in the sun, means not even a person is left to do the funeral, right? The dead bodies are lying in the field and they are rotting in the sun. This is the image of destruction. And then what happens next para? Great praise. But the things like that, must be after a famous victory. You know what? Casper is very casual towards the attitude. Casper is very casual attitude he shows. होना चाहिए. बोल रहा है कि डेथ विक्ट्री में तो इस तरह की डेथ होती रहती है, ऐसे बॉडीज जो हैं वो रॉट करती रहती हैं. इट इज़ वेरी very common. And then what happens? Great praise the Duke of Marlborough won and our good Prince Eugene. Old Casper is praising whom? Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene, because they were won. And why? It was a very wicked thing, said little Wilhelmine. When old Casper is praising Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene, Wilhelmine means little kid. She is very confused. And she says that it was a wicked thing, and she actually wondered how can it be praised, because old Casper is praising the Duke of Marlborough and good Prince Eugene, no? So she is very surprised, and she wondered that how can it be praised, such a bloody war. He seems to be afraid of breaking the romantic ideas. That is why only I guess that he appreciates every now and then the famous victory. He appreciates the war every now and then because he is under the influence of that romanticism, that war is a glorious thing. War is a, very war is the sign of bravery. Probably he was under this influence only. That is why old Casper was appreciating again and again the war. And he says, why it was a very wicked thing, said little Wilhelmine. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. And then he says that, nay, nay, my little girl, it was a famous victory. No, it was not wicked thing at all. It was a famous victory. And everybody praised the Duke who this great fight did win. And what happens? Again Casper is appreciating the Duke and the Prince. Everybody praised the Duke who this great fight did win, who won the fight, who won the battle. But what good came of it at last? Up the little Peterkin is asking, what good did it do? Well, it's okay. Your prince and your duke, they won, but what good did it do? Asked little Peterkin. Why, that I cannot tell, said he. But old Casper doesn't know the reason. He says, I cannot tell, said he, but it was a famous victory. He says that I cannot tell that what good did it do, but only I can say that it was a famous victory. And you know what? This quote is very true, that victory has many fathers, but defeat is an orphan. And now we have finished the poem. Here the war was fought over a trivial dispute, I guess, but what it costed? It costed lives of thousands of soldiers. And that victory cannot bring back. Victory cannot bring back all the lives which were lost during the war. This was the great damage. And the poem successfully conveys the message that war is futile and should be avoided. Alright, we have finished the poem. If you have any query and doubts, we'll discuss during the session. Thank you. Bye-bye.